Hey Brett, thank you so much for being here and saying yes to being a guest on the show. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. When I was thinking of this podcast and all things manifestation, I was like, I can't wait for our episode to launch, if she agrees. Because since we worked together a while ago, I still quote you a lot. There's still things in my coaching business and just like personal life that like I think about you and like stay with me. So anyway, I'm just like really grateful that you're here. But tell the listeners just a little bit before we start our discussion. Tell them who you are a little bit.
Who I am, well, I know, you told everyone what I do. So who I am, I don't even like using the term multi-hyphenate, but I'm someone a lot of people in my life will say to me, "Oh, you're like continually reinventing yourself." And I say, I'm actually not. I'm just evolving and growing. Um, so who am I? I am a intuitive, clairvoyant. I learning to take off the imposter syndrome around psychic, astrologer. I'm an empath, and I also big part of me is I am a practicing Jew, and I study Jewish mysticism. I'm a cat mom, and yeah, I also love, some junky reality TV, and I'm gluten-free, soy-free, and dairy-free.
There you go. I
Fun
love it.
stuff.
Yeah, of course. Very multifaceted. And yeah, since I've known you, just of course like career change and like shift, but I agree too. I relate with that like evolution and growth. I just feel like it means that you're just like flexible and open to like what feels aligned, because
Mhm.
sometimes we're just not going to do the same thing all the time, and that's okay.
Yeah. And one thing that I did learn, I had a friend do my human design. I'm a manifesting generator, which just really made so much sense to me because I am multi-passionate and I also, this will come up more in our talk. I really believe in using your emotions and your intuition as a GPS and a guide. And we often think like, okay, I have to keep pushing against the tide to make something work. But then when we allow ourselves to get into flow, it's really amazing how what can blossom when we're not trying to fit everything into a linear box, like a line, a box, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Someone else's idea of what your life should look like.
Yes. And I just love, how human design, astrology, people that love enneagrams as well. Like there's just so many different like tools. And that's what it is. It's a tool. It's a resource to learn about yourself, to grow into that direction of what
Mhm.
feels good. So, um, well, thanks again. I'm super stoked to talk to you today and come up with these topics. So, in every episode of this season, I want to highlight just some different categories regarding manifestation. And as a holistic life coach, I help my clients build a dream life that aligns with their values. So, in my sessions, whenever I talk about manifestation with my clients, some know exactly what I'm talking about. They're on board, they get it, they vibe. And other clients, they want to learn more. So I
Mhm.
have this platform now to redirect and share um, that knowledge, because as much as I could just talk about my success with manifestations, I really want to hear other people's unique perspectives and expertise on the people, places, things they've manifested, techniques, so that it can just be a tool to empower us and build the life that we really want. So, Brett, the first question that I ask every guest on the show for clarity is, how do you define manifestation?
So I define manifestation as a tool, but also a way of life. We are always manifesting, always, all of us. The difference is that some people are conscious of it and aware of it, and other people are not conscious of it. But either way, you're manifesting. So I define manifestation as attracting things that are on the same frequency as your own vibration. We can look at this from a physiological standpoint when we measure like use I think it's an EEG for your brain and EKG for your heart to measure the energy that you're emitting. And our brains do the same thing. You have brain waves, you have thoughts, and now there's a ton more research and proof that our brains emit things. And so the way that I define it is, I could pick up anything solid from pen to like my hand to the laptop we're recording this on, and it looks solid, but it's not solid. It's a bunch of atoms that are all vibrating together very, very closely because they're attracted to each other. They're on the same frequency. And so the idea is that you attract things that you're on the same frequency as. Now, what's interesting is that then we tend to think, okay, well, the thing that I want has a frequency. Sure, but it just has a frequency, right? You're not going to change the frequency of a car. What you can change what you assign to the car is good or bad in the feelings. But the thing that you want, you have to choose to tune into that frequency. So I also explain manifestation, and forgive me if I'm talking too much, as like you turn on the TV. I don't know if I'm dating myself, but you turn on TV, you'd have a TV guide with thousands of channels. And you know that all of those shows are showing right now, they're being broadcast, but you choose, I'm going to tune into this one. Now, that doesn't mean that the other shows aren't happening because you don't see them. And so that's what manifestation is like. It's what am I choosing to tune into? And it's taking a really active role in your reality and shaping your reality from the inside out versus things happening to you.
Mhm. What I like about like the TV guide reference as well is that you're it kind of like it kind of grounds you because it means that it's still out there. Like what you want can happen versus this like, oh, it's invisible. Like because I can't even see it, it won't exist for me. But you're saying the channels are there. It's just about you now. So that's even really helpful too for those people that are like in the way like there's absolutely no way this can happen vibes. So
Mm-hmm.
it brings I guess I want to say that like even in that metaphor, it gave me even a little bit of hope.
Well, it's just a change of perspective, really. It's like if there's something that you have and you love and appreciate, but you don't have it in front of you, that doesn't mean that you don't have it anymore. Like think of things that are there, whether it's the TV programs or the shows, or it's things that are in like your closet. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean we don't see the moon during the day. That doesn't mean the moon doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Right? We just have to change our perspective and change our frequency.
Yeah. Along with that, like, I mean, we kind of maybe like I alluded to this too as well when I did your intro, but tell me more about astrology and manifestation and if there's any like overlap. I mean, you are all things astrology. So how did you get into it? And I guess like how does that relate?
So I got into astrology because I was a quote unquote strange or weird kid. I would see spirits, hear spirits, just know things, and I would talk about it because what did I know? I was just like, oh, this happened. And so my parents believed me, but then, kids are cruel. And this is back in like 80s, 90s. There was still a lot of bullying, and I was bullied. I just felt very different than everyone else. And so I thought something was wrong with me because I mean, the best way that I can explain it in terms of manifestations, I was just on a different frequency than most people. And so I went to the self-help section to see like what's wrong with me. And I found this book that was like Scorpio as a teen, because I'm a Scorpio sun. And I said, okay, what is this? Interesting. And so I picked it up, I read it cover to cover, and I was like, wow, all of the things that I think are bad, weird about me are actually not just good weird, I'm actually validated. Wow, someone sees me. There's words for the things that I'm feeling. Because also remember, as a child, you don't have the same vocabulary as you do as an adult. And so I said, that's wow, what else is out there? And so then I picked up really what I think is one of the astrology Bibles, Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, which I highly recommend to everyone, even though it's very patriarchal, a little dated. It gets into the core energies of every sign. And I just taught myself. I learned and learned and learned, and then I started reading other people's charts, but it was really a tool of self-discovery and validation. Um, so that's how I got into astrology, and I've been using it pretty much ever since. I got in. Did you want me to answer how I got into manifestation as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a little separate. That was so the thing with manifestation is I'd always just had a sense, like a knowing that everything is energy, energy can't die, and science has always proved that too, right? You can never not exist. And I just had this knowing about it. And then I went through a really terrible breakup uh, back in 2010, and I was not in a good place. And so I'm like doing yoga and all of that stuff. And I'm like, nothing, I don't know. And so my mom said, why don't you read The Secret? The Secret was really popular then. And I said, I'm like, I already know this stuff, but sure. And I listened to The Secret and it really struck a chord because I said, I know these things to be true, but I didn't know how to apply it. And so I said, all right, what can I manifest? Let's start with money because I'm one of the luckiest people that grew up talking about money. I like money. I've never had a money mindset problem. So I was like, I can get money, no problem. Let's make this fun. So I wrote myself a check from the universe for more than double what I've been making. I was in a pure commission job, and I would look at it every morning and every night. This was right next to my bed. And you can see this from a perspective of, hey, this motivated me. It reprogrammed my subconscious, which we'll talk about more, or manifestation. But I just knew, I was like, this is how much I'm getting paid. This is how much I'm getting paid. And boom, I did it within $7 in a year. And I was like, okay, great. And so that was for me is really a big wake up call. And there's other things that I have been able to manifest, but that's how I got into it. How do astrology and manifestation combine? Well, really, astrology isn't static. Astrology is also energies. So we are always feeling the energies of the planets, the stars, the objects in the sky that we work with, as above, so below. So it's very similar to the concept and manifestation of resisting and accepting. I could tell you, like, hey, Saturn is lighting up this area of your chart. It's going to give you opportunities for change. For example, it's going to be a mirror. It's going to audit you. And if you get that and you're like, oh my God, this is so scary. What's it going to do to me? I need to control this. What you're doing is working against the energies and you are resisting. You are in a state of fear, resistance, lack, scarcity versus okay, Saturn's going to show up, teach me a lesson, show me what I need to know. Now that I know this energy, I can work with it. I can accept it for what it is. So it's a state of acceptance and detachment from the outcome, which is mirrors manifestation. Um, but with both, really the key is to not, we don't try to, it's funny because I've never heard someone say to me, oh, I really try to control the planets or I try to control the moon. Like that sounds bizarre to us, but we will literally be like, well, like we're thinking of ways that we can control how anything else in life is going to happen. We're not God. And so like they work together very synergistically.
That makes sense. It sounds like the validation piece also like that struck a chord for me too. And I remember the first time you in our very early days, like you read my chart, we had a whole meeting and it was so validating. You even like validated the partner I had at the time. And I was like, oh, that's actually like X sign. I thought that was just him. So anyway, the validation piece is huge. And then kind of like with what you're saying with the manifestation of like the energies too, there's only so much in our control. So I really like I really like how you have this, like with that money example. It sounds like there's a lot of confidence,
Yeah.
and trust, either confidence in yourself or confidence in the universe that it's going to happen, maybe a little bit of both. What would you say to someone that maybe isn't as sure or knowing in those kind of maybe beginning stages? Because I think for me, there are some things in my life. I'll take, for example, like when I first moved to California, I really didn't know anyone. But I already knew, because I know myself, that I'm going to manifest some really good girlfriends here. I don't
Mhm.
know when, I don't know how, but I know I will find some really good soul sisters here in California. And I did. I manifested that. It was really cool. But maybe there's some other things where I still desire it, but I'm struggling with the mindset, or I'm struggling with that energy and matching that. So I think, what would you say to someone that, yeah, they're pretty confident in other things, but
Mhm.
maybe some other areas of their life, they're like, I don't know how to manifest this one.
So there's two elements to it. There's confidence and trust in the universe or spirit or however you want to call it. And there's confidence and trust in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as humans, we see these two things as separate, right? But we're not separate. There's no duality. You are spirit, spirit is you, you are part of the universe, etc. Our minds don't perceive things that way, or at least our rational minds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so gosh, I'm like, I don't know where to start for this answer. So the first thing to realize is, again, you're always manifesting, which is really scary to hear if you look around and think, I don't like what I have around me right now. But what I would tell someone is what are the things that have happened for you? Even though they may not have seemed great at the time, like maybe you had a breakup with someone, but that's good because that's not the person you're supposed to be with. Maybe you got fired, but that actually put you back on your path. So it's being there first has to become a confidence in really in yourself. And that doesn't go from 0 to 100. This is something I've worked on for years and years and years. And it's just like any other muscle, right? You just have to learn to trust yourself. And the more that you trust yourself, the easier it becomes. When you start to doubt yourself, that's when you start tripping. When you start tripping. And then Einstein has a quote. I'm not going to quote it exactly, but it's something along the lines of whether the most important question we can ask ourselves is this a friendly universe? Is this total chaos and a mess? Or is this all seamlessly blending together? Like, how did this happen? What a miracle everything is that you're alive in this moment. And so our brains have a negative bias. And whatever we tell them, whatever we tell our, if we, so I'm tripping over my words a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is if you expect it's a friendly universe, if that is your outlook, that is what you're going to find because that's ingrained in your subconscious. Your brain is going to filter in information that confirms that belief. And you are going to integrate that again and again. But if you are someone that is walking around with everything sucks, everything is scary, everything is happening to me, this is not a friendly universe, guess what? That's going to be your outcome. And so the number one way that we address this is not like, oh, walking around like, yeah, we could have affirmations like, I love myself, blah, blah, blah. But until you have completely reprogrammed your mind, your mindset, your neural pathways, your subconscious, built new beliefs, your reality is not going to change. And so it's not like waving a magic wand. This takes a lot of work because you might have thought one way for 35 years and now you need to change it. And one other thing that I want to mention, just because this came up earlier in another conversation, is our ancestors have been running around in fear for thousands of years, just literally trying to survive. Most of them. And that gets baked into our DNA and our energy. It's epigenetics and it's passed down. We have generational trauma. But when you recognize that, then you can take control of it. But like, don't be so hard on yourself because that's thousands of generations that have passed their shit down to you. And now you have to say, like, wait, what do I want my reality to look like? Well, the work starts inside and reprogramming how I think about things. I don't know
Hmm.
if that answered your question because it's not an easy fix,
Mm-mm.
and that's not an easy question to answer.
Totally. No, but you touched on so many good topics and it just makes me think of more questions, which
Yeah.
is like I think a big thing is we, at least Americans, and that's all I know because that's where I was raised. But that, oh, I have to work so hard to get what I want. I even have to work hard in my manifestation, up by your bootstraps or whatever. So, like,
Mhm.
what would you say to that?
That's a belief.
Mm,
That is a belief. Now, the difference is you're looking around and saying, but everyone believes that. It's a widespread belief. Just because everyone, I don't know, I can think of it like a pandemic, a belief pandemic. Everyone believes this thing that, and when you walk around and it's so coded in your brain that everything is hard, I have to work so hard. Guess what? You are on the frequency of hard. You are literally walking around and your beliefs are dictating your actions. You are creating hard for yourself. So why not? Like I like to do like make Delulu work for you. Like just have fun with it. Like take this lightly. By the way, we are here. Like my guide told me like we're here to enjoy life. So we're go, decide like, well, what if it were easy? Play around with it for a week. Every day, just say like, it's so easy. It's so easy to make it is so easy to make money. Your manifestations should not be hard. Anytime you feel like you're swimming upstream doing anything, that is a big red flag from your emotions, your intuition, your higher self of like, nope, nope. Now, there's a difference between hard like that and challenging. The difference is this, like I'll think of like applying for a job. If you're applying for a job that you don't want, you're like, ugh. Like you just know that feeling of like, I'm just doing this because I know I think I should be doing this versus, oh my God, like it lights you up. And so what we should always be seeking is like what lights you up versus what's hard, what's difficult. Like, why do we all have to believe that things are hard? Why can't let's challenge these beliefs?
mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I know like just from personally and like from my clients that struggle of especially when the desire is so strong, like if they've been manifest or like wanting this thing for so long and then like
Mhm.
they're losing hope, so then they think they just have to like work harder, whatever that means. And but you're right, like I mean that brings up resistance and its lack. So I mean, I would guess like is there some kind of technique, I know like meditation's always like helped me to kind of like redirect that when it feels so hopeless, when I want to get into the Delulu. I want that. That feels good. That feels like that would be more fun. But I wonder if there's some kind of technique to like shift to get back on that frequency.
Literally do something that makes you feel good.
Mm,
Like literally, so when you're that's the other thing. If you're sitting there, you touch on something interesting, Paige. If you're sitting there and thinking, I want this so bad, what you're really saying is, I don't have this and I need it. And I just want it, but you're not on the frequency of having it. So you're
mm.
pushing it away. It doesn't serve you. I mean, so the number one technique is like, I can I curse on here?
Of course you can.
I was like, when these thoughts come up, like, do I fucking want this? Do I want to feel this way? If no, goodbye. I don't
Mm,
need to feel this way. So fucking what? I had
mm,
it, or I had an intrusive thought. So fucking what? Goodbye. Does this serve me? So literally, if you are sitting there feeling hopeless and despair, I want you to go do something that makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Because then let's talk this from a logical sense. You sitting there and despairing and feeling shitty about something is not going to make it more real. Let's take manifestation out of the picture. You sitting and pining for someone, something, and feeling bad is not going to get you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. So why put yourself through that? Why feel shitty? And I say this as someone who has suffered from severe depression, and that's a very different thing than we're talking about here. But if you're like, oh my God, I want this so much, does that feel good? No. You have to feel good to get good. It's not the other way around. So go do something that makes you feel good. Stop thinking about it because all you're doing is focusing on the lack. What happens? The lack grows. Go just take your mind off it. Go watch Netflix. Like do something, whatever that just like makes you feel good. Go for a walk. I mean, literally, it doesn't matter. Just what would make you feel good right now? Great. Just doing that raises your vibration.
Mm-hmm. How smart is the universe? Meaning, I know it's a loaded ass question, but what I mean is, let's say, for example, you desire a relationship. You've been single for a while. You desire one. Fine. You practice the belief that the right person will come along when it comes along. I still want that relationship, but in the meantime, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do the things, but you really deep down have this lack, but you're kind of trying to appear that it doesn't bother you, or so it's like, who are you fooling, right? So I'm asking, like, does the universe know that like really deep inner wound, even though you're like kind of on the surface being like, oh yeah, no, it's fine, I'll get do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying
Yeah,
to.
of course the universe knows.
Yeah.
You're not walking around and probably like let's be real, you're probably not fooling other people. Like we
Mm-hmm.
all, especially anyone that can sense energy, like we freaking know. It would take me a second. I'd pull a card for you and be like, actually, here's what's going on.
Called out.
Yeah, like you can't fake it, but what you can do is you actually touched on something. If you say, I really want a relationship, the number one thing I'd say is what does your relationship look like? Get super, super specific. How does it make you feel to have that relationship? And then however it makes you feel, go feel that. Go be all right. If your reality is here and you're here, and I know that people who are listening can't see this, but I have two of my fists up. And what you're saying is that your reality, whatever your desire is way up here. Guess what you have to do? You have to do the work to get up there too. It's not the other way around. Because if you stay on a lower frequency, you'll probably get a relationship if you say, yes, universe, I want a relationship. But it's not going to be the relationship you want, but it will be the one that's on your vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are saying, I want this relationship where I feel so confident and so happy and so loved and all of the things, you got to go be that person.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do your own healing to get what
Mm-hmm.
you want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're walking around and saying, I really want this, oh, but I don't, but I don't really think I can have it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You're not going to get it because you're not ready for it.
Mm-hmm. How important is healing?
It's like one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I work with my clients, we do a lot of healing, especially inner child healing. Your inner child is a piece of you,
Mm-hmm.
not going to go away. And so if you want something in the future, present you and past you has to be on board with it. And you are not going to get your manifestation unless you are 100% on board with it. And when I say on board, not just, oh yeah, this is something I want, but something that I believe is possible for me, that I believe I deserve. So, and I'll give you an example. I'll call myself out here. For whatever reason, like me saying, I want to be Oprah, there's still a part of me that like not that I really want to be Oprah, but there's like a resistance, and that resistance, whatever it is kind of saying to me, like, I don't believe I can have it. So if my desire is really to be Oprah, that means I have some healing to do, because otherwise I'm just pushing it away. I'm actively resisting it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that I want to go back to the two things, the TV thing, because being Oprah is a possibility for me. I'm just not tuning into that station because I don't want to, I'm resisting it. The other thing I want to go back to is astrology, and there's an asteroid called Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And we also really use that to look at what's our core wound. But also, once I start to heal the wound, you're able to heal other people. It's kind of your gift. It's your way of healing the world, and that raises your vibration as well. So
Mm-hmm.
healing is like the most important piece of this, because you can't listen, like you can walk around and fake it all day long, but if your insides are rotting, you're not healthy.
Mm-hmm. That's really helpful. I like that you touched on like your past version, your present version, your future version all need to be on board. And for me, I'm a very visual person, and it reminds me of like Inside Out, the movie,
Yeah.
like all the little emotions. But for me, with parts, like I do have a lot of characters in my head. Like I have the page that's very logical. I have the page that's the, dreamy spiritual hippie. Like I got all these versions, and then of course, yes, I have my inner child, which I have an 8-year-old picture of myself on my desk, so I can look at her and I can be like, it's okay, you're fine. Like you got this, so I could talk to her. But I like that a lot, because if I desire a relationship, if I desire a sports car, whatever that I'm desiring, and I don't have it yet, there is some resistance that I don't want to even accept. I don't even, like, so that's taking accountability as well, of like, how can we get even more on board here? Where is that lack, or where is that feeling that I'm not worth it? And worthiness is a pretty deep thread, deserving, all of that. That's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Um, you have any like tools for when like a lack of worthiness comes up, or like just something to like redirect, or what insights do you have on worthiness?
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember me saying this ever in our coaching, but I used to tell people, like, you're not Target, you're Chanel.
Yes.
And so you got to walk around like not everyone gets this is where we're talking about boundaries. So when me and I talked about this with coaching, we were talking about pricing, and not saying when people are like, "Oh, your prices are too high," that you lower to that. Well, it's the same thing. You don't lower your frequency. You got to walk around like, I am Chanel. Not everyone gets access to me. And so guess what? That's also going to mean that I might not get all of the shit out that people get. I get something that is just for me. So it's how you view yourself. I feel like I'm missing your question somehow. So how do you feel worthy? I mean, that's an inside job, right? You have to start appreciating yourself, um, what makes you special. And then also you have to really like set those boundaries. They can be physical, energetic, relationship boundaries, but saying like, I won't tolerate anything less because I'm Chanel. So
Mm-hmm.
if I want the perfect partner and you're settling for someone that is less than perfect for you, guess what you're saying? I don't believe I'm worthy of the perfect partner. And you're lowering your frequency. What happens? You are on the lower frequency. You could look at the universe coming to meet you, but I just think it's you're keeping yourself there when you settle.
Mm.
So you have to stop settling. And that feels really scary for a lot of people, because there's this mentality of, I'm okay with like it. All right, if I don't settle, then well, I might be alone. I might not get a job. I might, well,
Mm-hmm.
it just becomes a it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'll tell a little, I have a relationship story about this, but I'll tell my own little story. So I don't want to say when, I have to be careful how I talk about this, but I found myself without a job, and I had actually manifested this, not having a job unknowingly. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And then like coaching clients came back and like coaching, and I still had this part of me saying like, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? What if you can't have a successful business again? So I would go on LinkedIn and I'd look at jobs, and I don't even apply for some jobs. And I just be like, do that because like I know they'll call me to interview. I know. And then finally I was like, wait, what am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? I'm sabotaging myself. When if I knew, like I know the sky is blue. If I knew that I would have a successful business, why the fuck would I apply for a job? Right? If you knew your perfect partner was on the way, why the fuck would you date some loser?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you are Chanel, like higher standard. And the second that I was like, what am I doing? Like, don't even look on LinkedIn for a job. Like, what? Literally, what am I doing? It was like a rocket ship took off. I was just on another level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a form of self-sabotage when we allow things that to bring us down in any way, to take us out of the state that we want to be in.
Mm-hmm. I relate to that on so many different levels. um, yeah, that's why I'm saying like worthiness is pretty trippy because and healing in general, and I have a podcast season, I think it's season 4, where I talk about like the whole episode or the whole season's about healing, and it's
Mhm.
using different modalities about it and the importance about it. And I just, everyone's healing journey is so different. But when it comes to manifesting, though, like we just need to be honest with ourselves. And I'm hearing you say too with this Chanel standard that if I still have this little secret whisper of you're not good enough or you can never get it, the whisper is still loud just
The
because it's a
whisper's still
whisper.
there because the
Mm-hmm.
whisper, even if it's a whisper, it's going to show up in
Mm-hmm.
in what you allow into your energy. It's
Mm-hmm.
like not only is everything around you what you manifested because it's in on your frequency, it's what you're willing to tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it this way, like you teach people how to treat you, right? And so, which I know, like, you know, that as in your background. So, like, if I allow some asshole friend to keep showing up in my life, what I'm really saying is, I don't believe that, I don't know, I deserve better than an asshole friend. Or
Mm-hmm.
there's some like, I need this, like, there's some scarcity of like, well, I need this because I may not get better. But if you're holding on to like that, not get better, I need this, that sense of need, you're sabotaging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like to tell people like, don't cheat on your manifestations.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, if you say you want something, don't accept anything less. Because the second you do that, what you're saying to the universe is, I'm okay with okay. And the universe goes, if that's what you want, all right, bye. Like, we'll keep giving you what you're okay
Oof. It's just a hard
with.
reality pill, because the world is your mirror. So
Yeah.
that's it. That's it, folks.
Yeah, but
I
I was also just gonna say, like, had to learn this the hard way,
Mhm.
working through manifesting.
Mhm.
And if I'm happy to tell the story, I don't know if you want me to,
Yeah,
but like,
yeah, for sure.
so yeah, and so like through that's why I coach on it because I've been through it and I have the hindsight. So when I started working with law of attraction, I mentioned I was going through this breakup, and I said, all right, I got the money within $7. And I kept, and I started saying, I expect checks, and I started getting money. And I'm like, well, this is fun. This is fun. If I can attract money, I can attract my perfect partner. And I am going to be, I sat down, I'm like, I'm going to ask for whatever the fuck I want. And so I took out a journal and I made this list of who my perfect partner was. And I mean, I looked at him like, this isn't going on updating profile. This is just for me. So I will put whatever I want. And the ones that really stood out for me, and everyone's different, but for me, it was certain values and perspectives and the way that I felt with this person. Did they support my ambition? Did they celebrate me? Like, how did they make me feel? And then there were little things like, will dance with me or likes when I sing, because I had some assholes that I dated would be like, you sing too loud, like whatever, and made me feel bad. So I had this whole list. I'm like, I'm going to manifest this. And so I would walk down the street and I would literally picture myself. I had my perfect partner next to me, didn't even know what he looked like. I just would feel what it would be like. And I got myself to that frequency. And then here's where I fucked myself over. I don't want to say I fucked myself over because hindsight is 2020 and it was a learning experience, something I needed to learn. So I was set up with a guy and we went on a couple of dates. And I remember I went and looked at the journal and I was like, okay, ish. There was most of the things that I was like, and I was like, yeah, I mean, and it really what I was thinking was like, I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, I'm settling. I was like, should I be greedy? Um, Maybe like this is enough. It was more like I can make this work. And that was me being so controlling when we say I can do this. I'm like, I can make this work. So I ended up in this long-term relationship and obviously it didn't work out. And the big reasons why it didn't work out were those exact things that I compromised on. This person didn't like the fact that I made more money than him, didn't understand my ambition, made me feel like crap, gaslit me. This word gaslighting was like a word. So I didn't know what it was. It was horrible. And I finally ended it. And when I ended it, I came out of it, also coming out of my Saturn return. And I was like, no more. Absolutely. I was like, I will not settle again for anyone that makes me feel like I need to compromise who I am and dim my light, who doesn't just accept me for who I am. And so I came out of that. And long story short, I was set up with my husband. Didn't think about this journal for months until we were moving across the country. And so I'm packing and I come across my journal. I'm like, oh, what's in this journal? And I see the list. And my husband checks off everything on the list. And so I did have to go through that worthiness journey and upgrade. If you want to upgrade any area of your life, guess what? You have to be the upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. That's really what manifesting is about.
I love that story too, because you're owning like, ooh, I'm gonna compromise because you want to control. And I have a
Well,
lot
I
of
want to
listeners.
control, but I also was really like, oh, but I like want this to work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
versus it should just work. Like when something's gonna work, it's gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when like when we were talking about earlier of like, oh, when we want something so bad, or yeah, it's but you didn't tune into your Chanel moment. But here you are telling
No,
the
I absolutely
story.
didn't think I was. I wasn't walking around thinking like I'm just, I had been through some shit and I didn't feel that way about myself. And I was like, well, I'll discount my prices because then
Hmm.
someone will buy it. Well, that's really not a good energy to be in.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love hearing stories like that too, to add that hope and just to reflect on the work you've done. And I do want to touch on before, we wrap up, and I do have a few more questions, but I really did want to touch on because you mentioned this way in the beginning. But there's definitely some science, some neuroscience and manifestation. So I would
It's,
really love to hear more about that.
yeah, absolutely. So this is something I've talked about for a while because I work with engineers, finance people, and like sometimes they're skeptical, which you know what? Great, you should be. Cool. Um, so the neuroscience is really interesting. There's a few things that are happening here. So our bodies have our our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system and our autonomic nervous system. And when we're in fight or flight, that is when our sympathetic nervous system is acting up. That is a sense of fear, anger, control. It's a reaction, is really what it is. Our parasympathetic nervous system is relaxation, digestion, rest, flow. And when I use the word flow, I've used the word flow for years, and I was recently validated by a book I read by a neuroscientist who used the word flow and how we want to get into flow. So it's if you are in a state of fight, flight, action, go, 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 and like just it's like almost it's interesting because it's paralyzing, but it's also a lot of times taking action. You can't you can't manifest. You just can't get it. You're blocking it because you're so concerned with staying alive. That's what our sympathetic nervous system keeps us alive. It keeps us safe. Our parasympathetic nervous system lets us relax. And when you're in a state of relaxation, you're releasing control. When you release control, you say, I trust you. I trust that what I asked for is coming. When you're in a state of, I need to control and like fight or I'm freezing, you can't, you're blocking your manifestation. So that's one piece of it. The other pieces are neural pathways, which I mentioned before. So we all have neural pathways, which have been building up since we were babies. I mean, you know how to walk, right? So walking is your muscle memory. It's also a neural pathway that says, I know how to walk. You don't really have to think about it. Or I know how to ride a bike might be a even more apt one. So we also have neural pathways that say things like, I have to work really hard to get what I want, or it's so hard to make money. And those are even harder to break because everyone around you is saying it. So if everyone around you is saying it, they're all getting evidence and you're seeing the evidence. So we have these really strong neural pathways in our brain that are programmed in. So we don't have to think about because they've become thought habits, beliefs. They're just, and that's governs how we act, react, move about in the world, how we take in information. But the beautiful thing about our brains is that we can say, all right, if I don't want to have this belief system anymore, I can program something new. And you choose, well, what else do I want to think instead? It's easy to make money. The first time you say it or think it, it might feel very different because guess what? It's a muscle you haven't used before. But the more that you say, and this is where affirmations help, it's so easy to make money. It's so easy to make money. It's so easy to make money. You're programming your brain, you're programming your subconscious, you're building a new neural pathway. And the neural pathways that we don't use eventually atrophy and die, and the new ones take over. So that's also why, like, when I say I've been working with manifestation for almost 15 years, I'm here because I programmed these neural pathways to the point where, like, that's what my brain expects. And the same thing with visualization. Visualization has an energetic component. It also has a neural component in that when you visualize something over and over, that's what your brain just comes to expect, which means that it's programmed into your subconscious, which means that all paths will lead to your visualization, which might sound a little crazy, but it will because our brains also have this beautiful thing, filters in information that confirms our beliefs. So if I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm adopting a cat, and I'm just every day I'm like, I'm getting it. And I have cats, but I'm like, I'm getting a cat, I'm getting a cat, I'm getting a cat. And I just know over and over, like my brain, my subconscious is just like cat, 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 cat. There's no way I'm not getting a cat because my body, my brain, everything is going to be pivoted toward cat. And on the manifestation side, then my energy is on the same frequency as cat. So what am I going to attract? A cat.
Totally. Oh, I love that. And you make it sound really easy too. Like I really like how you describe it. You're not using like funky like chemistry engineer terms that I'm like, "Oh God, what are you saying?" You break it down very well. So thank you for doing that. And it just maybe because yeah, you've been doing this for so long too, but even just the thought and the belief that manifesting can be easy, what I want can be, I'm attracting, like that in itself is easy. And it just sounds so much better. It just
It
like
does.
my
It feels
shoulders.
better, but you
Yeah.
have to be what you want. That's really the key. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be, you want the Chanel, you got to be Chanel, which means you don't accept anything less than what makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm. So you still have to walk the walk.
You got to walk the walk. And I mean, trust me, I don't know if you're going to ask the question about how I attract clients, but there are certainly times where I trip myself up because I'm human. You can't control every thought or feeling. And I have to say, like, wait, is this thought helping me? Does this feel good? Do I want to hang out here? No, I don't. Where would I want to hang out?
That's a
Why
really
don't
good.
I just have fun with this?
Yeah, where is this where I want to hang out? I really like
Yeah.
that one. That's good. Maybe just share one. I mean, you've manifested so many things, but maybe share one manifestation. I mean, you already shared your husband. But is there
Mhm.
another story you want to share with folks of something that's really cool, something you manifested?
I mean, I manifested a trip to Aruba. By the time this comes out, I will have gone. I just decided, I was like, I really want to go on a vacation with my family and I don't want to pay for it. Like my parents, and that's happening. And on a more like minute level, there was a week that recently I was really, really sick and I had to cancel every single meeting. And that's fine. My clients already paid. So it's not really a big deal. But when you're sick, you're stuck in bed and you're like, oh my God, then you can start to spiral down. And I was like, I'm gonna lose my clients. They're gonna hate me. My business is gonna fail. I'm not getting any new leads. And I was like, wait, like this doesn't like, all right, I'll have my pity party moment. But I'm like, really, really, like, this is not good for me. So I was like, what if I want to play around with I can get clients and make money while I'm sick in bed? And boom, overnight, two clients out of nowhere. And a current client was like, oh, yeah, I owe you some money. And I was like, I'm literally in bed feeling like death. And so that should also prove to you, by the way, that like you don't need to be the physical. There's nothing that needs to be perfect about you. All you need to do is get on the frequency of like, huh, this is so cool. Get a little delulu. I'm like, but literally I was like, why not? Why not? Why can't that happen? There's no law. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna if I can believe that the sky is falling, why can't I believe that the sky is rising as well? Like whatever I believe is
Yeah.
gonna be true.
I love that. Those are so fun. I love your manifestation stories. They're just so like hopeful and fun. And you also just have this like playful attitude, which is a really big
Yeah.
component too, is why not? Like versus this like really like I don't
But like
know.
literally, why not? Crazier things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't believe that they can happen for us. But it's
Yeah,
like, why not? The only
why
reason
not?
that I haven't won the lottery is because I must have some sort of resistance to me that feels like that's not possible for me. But like, if I really wanted to work on that, I could.
Totally. You
Yeah,
totally.
so,
Yeah. We just have to own up to, right? Of like
maybe also like that's not my frequency. That's not my vibe.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just getting curious with yourself and reflecting and is this actually what I really want? Because I get tripped up too
Mm.
of like the because it's so noisy out there. Oh, you want this, don't you? You want this whatever thing. And it's like, okay, but then you actually tune into it and you're like, I actually don't. Not because I don't believe I can have it, it's just because I actually don't want it.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't want it. But like, if it's something that you're like, I strongly encourage. I know I make it sound easy, but get playful. Like, pick something that you want to manifest that you doesn't feel so high stakes. You start with a cup of coffee, but like, I'll do this sometimes where I'll be like, there's a one dress right now. I'm like, I really want this dress, and I refuse. I could buy it, and I still might, but I'm just like, I believe I can manifest this dress now. I don't know how. And again, I might buy it. I might get it like some crazy discount. I mean, I've manifested free clothes before. Um, but I'm just like, well, let's make this fun. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not tying any like
Mm-hmm.
heaviness to it or meaning or attachment to it. So like if I don't get it, yeah, I don't get it. I can still buy it if I really want it.
Yeah. That sounds like some like manifestation training boot camp is do some like, desire something or just like pick something that's
We'll
low.
walk around and like I always get free stuff. If you like, that can feel a lot easier for people that do have money blocks instead of, I always get money, which is one of my affirmations of money flows easily naturally to me. That's not for everyone. So maybe it's just like I always get free stuff. And I promise you, when you walk around like someone, like I always get free stuff, you're gonna have people start giving you random shit. And it's pretty cool.
I love that.
I always get free food.
Yes, we
It's
love
like
free food.
I'm not kidding.
I love that. That's so good. Okay. So last question here is what would be, you did mention, affirmations,
Yeah.
visualization. Do you have like specific tools or techniques for folks after they listen to this podcast, something they could work on?
Definitely visualization. I have created a visualization meditation. So full on visualization, even just like playing, like pick a snippet to you of, let's say, happiness, success, fulfillment, and picture just like a 5 second reel almost in your head. And just keep looking at it and keep looking at it. How does that feel? How do I feel there? Over and over and over again. That's one. Affirmations, they have to work for you. So, like, again, I'm not going to walk around saying, I win the lotto. I'm so happy I won the lotto because I'm not on the frequency of winning lotto. And it just doesn't, it feels like resistance to me. So I like to play around with it and say, like, how cool would it be if this happened? Or like, oh my God, it is so cool that this happened. And I don't know why I still believe in gratitude. I do gratitude and appreciation work, but for whatever reason, just like when I say like, isn't like get into more of the feeling of having it, like, oh, this is so awesome that I have this. Isn't it amazing? And like honestly, get to start telling people, you want a successful business, you got to start telling people that you have a successful business. Get into the frequency of it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I love that. Um, what is a good way for folks to contact you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, and I know you're going to drop that at Brett.Chinn, two T's, two N's. My website, I also publish a column on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. You'll drop my email and website in there as well. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Amazing. And is there anything else like that you want to showcase or let folks know that you have?
Yeah, so I offer one-on-one intensive coaching, which I highly recommend, especially if you need some assistance along your journey. I offer workshops. I have an upcoming one that's full. I prefer to do them in person, but I also do virtual manifestation mastery workshops. And then I have a subscription service called Pocket Psychic, where members get weekly personalized tarot and oracle card readings, spiritual guidance from me. They can message me pretty much unlimited, and then additional discounts on longer form tarot and astrology readings.
Amazing. Definitely get into it, folks. Everything she said, it's in the show notes. And I've worked with Brett before, so I am a first-hand referral. Like, she's amazing. She's changed my life in many ways. Like I said in the very beginning of the show, I still quote her on other random things that pop up. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a Brett thing. Like, follow your feet. And there's just
Trust your
random
feet.
quotes. Yeah, there's so many quotes. You're a quotable lady. I think you should
Thank
have
you.
like a book of quotes. um, okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Brett, for taking the time to do this. Like, I really appreciate your wisdom around this. I trust you so much, and I know my viewers are gonna love this information.
Thanks for having me. So good
Yes,
to
of
be here.
course. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you all listeners. If this episode truly resonated with you, make sure to share it on your socials and tag Brett and I so we can say hi. And remember, every single day provides a lesson. Go out there, dream big, and I'll catch you next week. Take care.